Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. The numbers are out, they're here. Today we're going to dive right in and go over our July market update. Hey, what is up everybody? It is Nick Isgro, your Central Maine realtor with eXp Realty. As I said at the beginning, today we're going to dive right into the numbers and go over a market analysis for the real estate market here in Central Maine for the month of July, so you can see where we're headed potentially in the month of August. As you know, on this channel, we do cover all things real estate in the state of Maine, particularly here in Central Maine. If you like that and that adds value to your process in real estate, please go ahead and give this video a like, hit the subscribe button, knock the little alarm bell, and you will be notified every time we have new video content coming out. You're going to want to stick around to the end to find out what these numbers mean to you, depending on whether you're a seller or a buyer. So let's dive right in, let's start and get going. I want to start right in with the number of properties sold here in Central Maine. There were approximately about 194 properties sold. Now, last month we had 192, so you can see on this chart we were coming up and it's somewhat starting to level off. 2 more properties than the month before, but looks like we are holding steady in this pattern for now. Of course, in this seller's market, one of the most important statistics is the number of new properties coming to market. Now in June, we actually had a high point for the year. We went up to 294 properties that were new to the market in June. July, we took a little bit of a dip, coming in at 277 new listings here in the Central Maine market. Does that mean the market's cooling? I don't really think so. It just means that there's a few less coming on, but I think what we're seeing now headed into August, we could be starting to reverse direction. Only the next few weeks are going to tell, but right now, kind of like the sold listings, I think we're in a little bit of a holding pattern, although we do see that slight decrease. Here's what's really interesting about these numbers. So the number of properties sold leveled off, and even though the number of new properties to market was down a little bit, we see with the number of overall active listings, the trend is going up. This is great news for you buyers. In June, we ended with 255 active listings. At the end of the month of July, we had over 300 active listings here in the Central Maine market. So for buyers, what does that mean? It means more availability, more inventory, and more chance for you to find that home that you're looking for. Does that necessarily mean bad news for sellers? Because a lot of you who are selling out there or thinking about selling, probably wondering, what is this doing to the inventory? What is this doing to my price structure? Let's dive into several new numbers on here, and we're gonna get right into that for you. I'm going to jump over now to the sale to price ratio. Now, if you remember from last month, the sale to price ratio is what percentage of the listing price is the house selling for. So if you have a house for $100,000 and it sells for $100,000, it's selling for 100% of the list price. If it were to sell for $90,000, it would be 90% of the list price. So you can see where we're going. Now, last month, what we saw was a 2-month trend where we had gone to 101 and then to 102% of the list price on the sale to price ratio. What's happening this month? You can see we're still going strong in the price. So for you sellers out there that want to get into the market, this is still an excellent time. 102, actually slightly, I think it was 102.2. We just slightly edged out the month of June at sale to price ratio. It means the majority of sellers in the Central Maine market, and of course it depends on your house, it depends on the town, that's the caveat here, but in general, overall, the average sale to price ratio was 102%, which means sellers are still getting more than they're asking for on average here in the Central Maine market. All right, buyers, in case I jumped your heart out there with the sale to price ratio, I want to get into a couple more statistics that are going to show that this is still a good situation for you. Let's dive into the absorption rate. So the absorption rate in real estate is basically how many months of inventory of housing stock do we have. So if we were to get no more new listings from now until the rest of the year, how many months could we handle as far as what buyers are going to go through? Now, a few months ago, our inventory was really low. We had dropped to only about a month's supply on the absorption rate here in the Central Maine market. Last month, we saw it creeping up. It was 1.49 months, so about 1.5 months worth of inventory. What's happening now? Well, we saw at the beginning, our overall active listings are getting stronger, 1.8 months of supply. That means the supply is growing, for you buyers out there. So even though pricing remains strong, the inventory is continuing to grow for you. Now, for sellers and buyers, this is what I think is one of the most interesting statistics on the market. This is the average days on market. So when a house goes into the listing, it goes onto the MLS, how many days is it sitting there before it goes under contract, before it's in escrow? 2 months ago, we saw it coming down. It was about 28 days. Last month, big crunch in June, 14 days. What happened in July? You can see here we're ticking back up. Not a lot. 18 days on the market on average. Now, that's still not a lot of time, but it does mean that houses are on average on the market for 18 days, a little more than 2 weeks. Last month I told you it was 2 weeks. Now we're looking at 2.5 weeks before a lot of these go under contract. Of course, as I always like to say, it depends on the specific property, the specific neighborhood, the price range, whether you're well priced or not, things like that. There are some towns that I'm looking at on the outskirts that are having longer, some that are right in town, maybe having a little bit shorter time, but on average here in Central Maine, 2.5 weeks, 18 days, average days on market. So looking at all of these trends, what does it mean in total? Well, let's give it a little bit of a breakdown. Is it time to sell? Is it time to buy? Well, the answer is kind of both right now. If you're a seller, the market is still incredibly strong. As you can see, there's still limited inventory. There's still a very historically low time that your house is going to sit on the market before it sells, and historically high price per sale ratio, meaning that if your house is priced right, there's a good chance you're going to get equal to or a little bit more than what you're asking for. This is a great time to sell. We still have incredibly limited inventory. However, for the first time in a while, and we saw this maybe creeping last month, but we didn't want to make the assumption, looks like buyers might be getting a little bit of relief finally. We know that lending rates are still historically low. We know that lenders are giving out loans. And now looking at the data from July, we know that we sold a little bit more than the month before for homes. We added a little bit less as far as new listings, but our overall listings are starting to creep up in the direction of a higher inventory, which means more quality, more choices, and ultimately a better process and a better experience for the buyer. Of course, everybody's asking, when is it going to end? When are things really going to change? The reality is we just don't know. If I were to take a stab at it, I would say that things are going to probably remain in this steady pattern. We're going to continue to get a few more listings. The market is hot. We know from earlier this year that about 1 in 5 Americans is considering selling their home this year. But we also know that typically in September and October, as inventory starts to dwindle and sellers start saying, oh, you know, I think I might wait till spring, we're probably going to see another price bump. So if you're a seller, keep that in mind. If you're a buyer, keep that in mind. I would expect that September, October, we're going to see another bump in the pricing. I just want to end by saying also, remember, whether you're selling or buying, the point here is to give you the information at your fingertips that you need to have a better quality experience and a better understanding of what it is you're getting into, and ultimately going to make it a better negotiation process for you. Now, depending on what market you're in, specific to what towns you're looking at, as realtors, we do have the ability to give you a specific market report for your town. So whether you're working with me, I'm going to give that to you. You're telling me you're looking at a town, we're going to break down those towns specifically into their data. If you're working with somebody else, you can ask them for it, and I'm sure, as we have so many quality realtors here in Central Maine, they're going to be happy to provide that information for you. But you want to go in the best equipped seller, the best equipped buyer. That's what we're here for. Of course, if you're in the market now, whether you're selling or buying, I would love you to drop a comment below and tell me if your experience is lining up with some of these numbers that we're seeing and breaking down here today. If you are looking for more information specific to your market, please feel free to drop me a comment, send me a note. Again, my name is Nick Isgro. I'm with eXp Realty here in Central Maine. I hope this information makes you better equipped. I'll see you next week.